matters. You have a DA sitting there that doesn't have the qualifications and the experience to do the job. What I can guarantee you is with my reputation, with my community ties, I am going to be able to attract the best and the brightest minds to that office. You're sitting with someone today that actually wants to make a difference because they deserve a DA that won't have sex with his employees, because they deserve a DA that won't put money in their own pocket when it should go to benefit children, because we deserve better.
A few years later.
Fulton County's criminal case against President Donald Trump and 14 criminal co-defendants accused of trying to illegally overturn Georgia's 2020 presidential election results now in the hands of a veteran prosecutor named Pete Scandalakis.
That's right. He is the head of State Prosecuting Attorney Council, and he is now taking on the Fulton County criminal case after a court disqualified Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. And Cheryl, he said he couldn't find anybody else to prosecute, so he is prosecuting it himself. We do have live team coverage for you tonight. We want to get straight over to 11 Alive's Doug Richards, live at the Fulton County Courthouse with more on what's next here. Hey, Doug.
Yeah, kind of as you said, this was a case of a veteran prosecutor who got handed the responsibility of finding another prosecutor to take on the Trump case. And when he could not find another prosecutor, he took it on himself. The election interference case against Donald Trump and originally 18 co-defendants quickly consumed the Fulton County DA's office. When DA Fani Willis was forced off the case after engaging in a relationship with then Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade, veteran prosecutor Pete Scandalakis, who led the state's Prosecuting Attorneys Council, had to find a replacement. The only volunteer he says he could find was himself.
I'm glad I'm not Pete. I don't envy his job at all.
Former DeKalb County DA Robert James says Scandalakis will have to analyze 8 terabytes plus more than 100 boxes of evidence against Trump and his remaining 14 co-defendants.
Boy. So we got to talk about some somewhat surprising news. I certainly did not expect to get this news today, as a new prosecutor has taken over the dead Georgia election interference case against President Trump that basically was on life support because of the fact that Fani Willis, who was prosecuting the case, could not keep her legs closed and her mouth shut. Okay, she got removed from the case because she was sleeping around with the attorney that she hired to help her politically prosecute President Trump.
What about Nathaniel's wife, Fani? All that money you allocated tricking on a prosecutor, tricked his wife out of $1,400 a month alimony payments, and even took some of it back using the debit card out the same account that he put the money in from contracts he allegedly fucked you for. Where's the justice for this black woman when she's saying I've been married to his ass for 26 years, raised his children, and he somehow found a way to get around the law? To only pay me $700 every 2 weeks, and then he splits that with me? This is the one you getting up on a church podium here to stand beside? That's the problem. Women findeth men. How you in church talking about, when I found this black man? You didn't find him. He's fucking you. Full way up. That's just what it is. And you didn't think that they was going to find out. But I'm just like, where's the justice for this black woman over here that helped to build up the very man that you are enjoying right now for the small price of $630,000 every year? Of the state's money. Now, who paying that money? We got questions.
Yeah, so Fani Willis was getting her fanny packed by Nathan Hot Dog Wade, right? Which is still hilarious to this day, right? It had to be like throwing a hot dog down the hallway, right? It had to be, bruh. But anyways, Fanny Pack, before she was officially kicked off the case, she basically said that, listen, I'm willing to wait, right? I am willing to wait until President Trump is out of office in order to throw him in jail, right? That is what her plan was, okay, until she got officially removed from the case.
The other big Hallmark case, obviously, is still also ongoing, so tell me what you can about it. But, with the re-election of now President-elect Donald Trump, he was also at the center of the election indictment. What do you do now? Because we've got this Supreme Court precedent now that says sitting presidents really can't be charged for some of the things that they did in office. With him now having the protection of the White House, how do you proceed as it relates to just his portion of this case?
I'm not going to talk to you about a case. Let me talk to you about a young lawyer and a lawyer that's got a little age on her. When I became a lawyer, I believe that all the smartest people were the judges, right? That's who rose to the top. I've been a little disheartened as I've gone on to practice law. But what I can tell you about me as a district attorney, I didn't indict anyone who I did not believe committed a crime in any case. And all of our more serious felony cases were indicted because a grand jury decided that there was enough evidence there to indict them. And so it is our plan, if someone has an indictment in this office, no matter who they are, we continue to pursue those charges. I can't be responsible for what judges and what courts will do. That will be decisions that they make, but I hope we get to see a little courage in leaders.
What about no matter how long it takes? Is that something that you think about too?
I'm patient. That's what age teaches you, is patience. I've been patient in the way we do our work, and I'm here for 8 more years is my plan. And so if that's what it takes for us to get justice in some cases, we come to work every day. We'll come to work and look for justice.
Yeah. So again, this is why I say, when Democrats in the mainstream liberal media, when they're boohoo-whining crowd about Eric Swallows Well and Adam Shifty Schiff and James Comey and Letitia James, that, hey, if you get an indictment, then, hey, it's legit, right? According to Fani Willis, that was the rationale when President Trump was facing what is obviously political persecution, right? We got an indictment, so therefore it's legit. For whatever reason, that standard doesn't apply to Democrats. But regardless, the point of playing that clip was to show you guys that Fani Willis was willing to wait this out. She was basically like, hey, I can just wait it out until the president is out of office because these are state charges. There's nothing that Trump can do about it, okay? Because as president, a pardon would only go as far as to get rid of federal charges, right? So she's like, hey, I'm going to wait it out. Now, she got kicked off the case, and in order for the case to stay alive, somebody had to be willing to take it up. Apparently, nobody was willing to take it up except the guy who was responsible for finding somebody who would take up this case. And that is why this case has now been revived, because you have a new prosecutor who's probably Trump deranged, a Democrat in the past, right? Now he's in a nonpartisan position, but this seems to be a very partisan move here because he decided to take this case, to revive this case, despite the fact that he couldn't find anybody to take it, which again means that these people are literally going to wait until Trump is out of office and to try to throw him in jail again. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Interference case against President Trump and others in their effort to overturn the 2020 presidential election results will continue, but with a new prosecutor. This comes after Fulton County Attorney Fani Willis was previously removed from the case. Let's go live right now to CNN crime and justice correspondent Caitlin Polantz. She's got all the breaking details. Caitlin.
Wolf, a criminal case against President Donald Trump is alive again with a new prosecutor. This is the case in the state of Georgia in Fulton County around the 2020 election, Donald Trump's efforts there, and an alleged conspiracy that he led or is alleged to have led with top officials, including Rudy Giuliani, advisors on his campaign, as well as many people in that state who acted as fake electors. This is a case that had been charged 2 years ago and had been essentially on ice, in limbo. It was not moving forward because the prosecutor, Fani Willis, she had been removed from it earlier by a state court, However, there was a deadline given by a judge to find another prosecutor, and indeed one has shown up. It is the person that was charged with trying to figure out who was going to prosecute this case. I want to read a little about that prosecutor now, what he is thinking. His name is Peter Skandalakis. He says, the decision to assume responsibility for this matter was reached only after careful and deliberate consideration. While it would have been simple to allow the prior judge's deadline to lapse or to inform the court that no conflict prosecutor could be secured, thereby allowing the case to be dismissed for want of prosecution, I did not believe that to be the right course of action. The public has a legitimate interest in the outcome of this case. Accordingly, it is important that someone make an informed and transparent determination about how best to proceed. I made the decision to assign the case to myself. So Peter
Yeah, so again, listen to this this guy, right? He's basically arguing that, well, nobody wanted to take the case, but I feel like it is important, right? This is important for the public that we move forward with it anyways. Now, if nobody wanted to take the case, if you couldn't find anybody to take the case, clearly, those people didn't think it was important enough to move forward with it, right? Now, let's be real. There are some arguments where people will say, well, nobody wants to move forward with it because they don't want to be subject to punishment from the Trump administration. But again, let's be real about this. Let's be real. If you have a clean record, right, what do you have to worry about? If your record is clean, what do you have to worry about? And anybody that does revive this case, especially considering our modern day state of Trump derangement, right? We have people, again, that are more Trump deranged than ever, right? We have levels of Trump derangement that I didn't think was imaginable at this point. They would instantly be a hero, right? A hero. It would be an opportunity to advance their career. Easily. I mean, that's what Fani Willis was in it for. You know this because basically, after it became clear that this case wasn't going to go to trial before the election, she didn't give a damn. She was saying all types of reckless stuff in public, pulling the race card, just saying stuff to basically ruin the chance of the case moving forward at all because she didn't care. The whole point was to have Trump convicted and possibly thrown in jail before the election. When that didn't work, she didn't care anymore. She didn't give a damn. I mean, she didn't really give a damn that much about it, apparently, because if she actually really cared, she wouldn't have been sleeping around with the guy that she hired to help go after Trump, right? So, again, it's fascinating how this guy is talking about how it's in the public's interest that this case move forward, but at the same time, he failed to find anybody that would voluntarily take the case outside of himself.
Skandalakis saying he's going to decide what to do with this indictment of Donald Trump and others in the state of Georgia, whether to push it forward. He says already he's looked at many of the documents in this case, witness statements, bankers' boxes worth of evidence that had already been collected by prosecutors.
Yeah, so it seems like he's going to move forward with it because he could have just let it expire, right? He could have just let the deadline pass and it would have died. It would have died and would have been done. So clearly this dude feels like he wants to be a hero, okay, and to move forward with this.
And he is going to determine what else to do here and what proceedings might be going forward. However, Wolf, Donald Trump's attorney in this case, the defense counsel Stephen Sadow, he says this politically charged prosecution has to come to an end. We remain confident that a fair and impartial review will lead to a dismissal of the case against President Trump. Wolf?
All right, Caitlin Polantz with the breaking news. Thank you very much.
All right, joining us now is CNN legal analyst and former federal prosecutor Elliot Williams. How significant is this?
It is significant in that, we have to put our hats back on to a couple of years ago. Remember, there were a series of prosecutions against then former president, now current President Trump, both at the state and federal level. One of them was in Georgia, and as Caitlin had talked about, the prosecutor, Fani Willis, had been removed from the case. Well, the judge had said the case, or the appeals court had said the case can be revived if a new prosecutor comes on. That case is now revived, and so once again, we are in the world of some percolating prosecution being brought against President Trump.
And Elliot, remind our viewers why Fani Willis is no longer prosecuting this case.
Right. She was prosecuting the case because of a relationship she had with a lead investigator or prosecutor on the case. Now, the trial judge who'd looked at the matter had said that while the relationship itself was not improper, there was at least an appearance of let's call it impartiality or impropriety that at least cast enough doubt on the case. It could still proceed, but look, there's a cloud over it. The appeals court then looked at it and said no, just to restore and maintain faith in the system, she should not prosecute this case. But again, it can proceed if someone else takes the case on, and that's where we are today.
But the bottom line is, and just to take a step back, you have the President of the United States as a criminal defendant in this case.
Yes.
I mean,
now, and there's the really important thing here, which is that this is an investigation or prosecution at the state level. All the stuff that people have heard about pardons for people connected with January 6th or Supreme Court rulings with respect to the president may not apply at the state level. I say may. That is a very important word, because anytime you are talking about the investigation or prosecution of the president of the United States, it's an uncharted world, and we just don't know quite what will happen. But again, state prosecutions aren't touched by federal pardons, and that's sort of what we're seeing here.
Do we know anything about this new prosecutor taking over for Willis?
I do not, and this is all breaking very quickly, and I haven't looked a ton into his background other than the fact he's a Georgia prosecutor.
That's all we know. Yeah.
how do you expect the Trump administration, to proceed now?
Yeah, I would think they would still revive the arguments that came up over the course of the last several years, which is that he is the president of the United States. Presidents, as the Supreme Court has said, are immune from prosecution for a host of conduct related to their work in office, even when sometimes that conduct is personal. They will, I would think, make the argument that, look, this is once again reviving another investigation into the president of the United States and his conduct before that should not proceed. Also, the fact that he's a sitting president now being prosecuted, they would say, look, maybe you could make an argument for prosecuting him in 2029, but there's no reason why a president should be sitting for interviews and depositions and providing evidence while he's trying to run the country. That's their argument. I'm not weighing in on it. That's just what I think they'll say.
So
you're not weighing in on it because the real answer is not what the audience wants to hear. There's no way President Trump is going to be sitting in a courtroom, standing trial while President of the United States. It ain't happening. He's not going to jail, right? While President of the United States. It's not going to happen. This is like, again, a Hail Mary. This is a Hail Mary. That's what this is. We just going to wait it out. We're going to wait till he get out of office. We're going to get him in 2029. The desperation is crazy. Remember this. Again, remember this when Democrats are boo-hoo-whining and crying about Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia James, Comey, Eric Swallowswell, all of these Democrats, whatever boo-hoo-whining, oh, you political persecution, oh, Trump coming after us. Remember, these people will never give up. They're never going to give up. No prosecutor wanted to take this. And this one dude who used to be a Democrat, right? Used to be a Democrat. Now he's nonpartisan, right? He's well respected amongst Republicans and Democrats, okay? Which, in some cases could be a bad thing. Now he wants to take this up and he wants to move it forward. When he could have just let it die. They said, no, we're still going to attempt to put the president in jail, in prison, even when he leaves office. They will never, ever, ever stop. They're just not going to stop. So again, this is the type of stuff that I'm like, well, if Democrats got to go to jail too, guess what? Well, that's just what they signed up for. Because they're going to try to throw the president in jail. Even when he's out of office. And these are the same people who say, oh, why does Trump want a third term? Right? It's stuff like this where it's like, well, as soon as I get out of office, you try to throw me in jail. I might as well just try to stay in office. Because if I leave, then you're going to throw me in jail.
That point, realistically, will the Trump administration, or the president himself for that matter, view any prosecutor as fair and impartial in this case?
I don't think so, not in this case when he is being prosecuted. And again, a lot of this comes out of the Constitution. The president is the one role in the United States that only one person can hold at a time. It's not like even the Supreme Court, where if you take somebody out, there's still 8 of them that can still do it. The argument will be that no president can ever sit for investigation or prosecution because he has a unique job. That you're going to hear that again probably very soon when they move to either dismiss or take some action with respect to this case.
So again, the key is that they're going to try to push it out until after he gets out of office. I guarantee you, we're going to see what happens. But, hopefully this case is on its last leg. Hopefully, some judge outright dismisses it. It's just crazy to me, the lengths that these people will go through in order to take down Trump. And like I said, I just want people to remember this. Remember this when they boo-hoo, whine, and crying about Democrats facing accountability. Just remember this. They are not giving up. They're not giving up. They're still trying to throw Trump in jail. They're still doing it. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.